Hello, everyone, and welcome to FemChatz. My name is Sneha Kukreja, and I'm the host of FemChatz. So I welcome you all to this week's very special podcast episode, where we'll be talking about something that no one ever thought of going towards. That is Aikido. It's one of the Japanese martial arts practices. And I was thinking of combining martial arts, Aikido, which is one of the peaceful martial arts, with the energy part of it with the feminine health and how that can help us women going through feminine health, PMS, menstrual cycle, menopause, perimenopausal years, or UTI, or anything at all, how we can work with our energy to help ourselves during these times. So I've got a very special sensei of mine, my professor, my special guru, who taught me during my time at Sofia University when I was doing master's program there. She taught me Aikido there, and that's when I learned how special it is. And this thing helped me. Aikido helped me when I was going through PMS. It helped me with my anxious energy. So I've firsthand experienced the benefits of Aikido. And that's why I thought, why not talk about it here on this podcast? So without further ado, let me introduce you to Professor Sensei Sue Ann, who is teacher of Aikido at Sofia University. She's currently living in Idaho in USA, and she's virtually teaching Aikido to many students at Sofia University who are learning virtually as well, thanks to COVID. And these are for the intensives, which is where I met my professor as well. Suan started teaching Aikido after getting black belt in 1977. And she has 6th degree black belt. She taught Aikido for 4 decades all over the Bay Area. So that's a little bit extra about Professor Suan. And let me take a moment to welcome Professor Suan to this podcast. Welcome. I'm so happy to have you here.
Onegashimasu.
Onegashimasu.
That's what we say when we start class in Aikido.
Yes. So Suan, is there something I left out when I introduced you so is there something you would like to add?
Well, yes, I would. I started Aikido when I was about 20 years old.
Wow.
And I had done Taekwondo in high school, which is a very rough form of karate, Korean karate. And I was living in a foreign country in Thailand, actually. And it was rough. It was rough. We got teased and picked on, my girlfriends and I, because we weren't Thai. And we walk home from school and they would pick on us. So we decided to sign up for this Taekwondo class.
Wow.
And to make a long story short, one of my friends who I was with one day coming home, we were getting teased by a gang of boys. And she went into a deep karate stance with her fists up like this. And they started laughing. I didn't do that, but she did it. Right. She's this big German, long-haired blonde woman, very, attractive, but big woman. And she goes into this low crouch karate stance with her fists up, and they start laughing and throwing things at us. And that hit me. I thought, my God, this doesn't work. I mean, it's maybe fun to punch and kick and pretend you're tough, but it doesn't really work. So I was about 17 then. And then when I saw Aikido a few years later, I went, oh my God, that's it. I just saw a demonstration and I saw it was beautiful, but I saw that it's not the form. It's the energy. It's how you hold yourself. It's how you walk through the world that keeps you safe. It's having boundaries. It's having a sense of a protective aura or field of energy around you that keeps you safe, not some fancy movements or looking tough. In fact, it just provoked. So that was instructive to me. I don't know if I would have noticed Aikido if I hadn't had that earlier experience.
That's amazing. Wow. I mean, that must have been scary though, in
Oh
like
yeah,
being in Thailand and just having constantly being teased everywhere. And
yeah,
but also life has taught me, that everything happens for a purpose. It may or may not seem that way at the time when things are happening, but later we understand that, oh, it led me here. And
right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah.
I
So
never, I never thought it would end up being, I thought it would just be something I was doing to get me through stress. I loved it.
mm,
It was beautiful, but I was in college and it was just, I was stressed. It was stressful. And then I thought, well, and it got so that I wanted to be on the dojo in the Aikido school practicing and not doing my classes.
mm,
And so I ended up eventually dropping out of college just so I could do Aikido full time. But I had
wow.
no idea it would take over my whole life. And here I am, 50 years later almost, still doing it. so,
Amazing.
so like you said, you'd never know, what the path is a mystery, but you just keep doing it and keep going, staying on that path, what feels right,
Yeah.
following your bliss, they say. And that's what I did. And it was against my parents' wishes and the society, but I just felt like I have to do this.
Yeah.
It was in my core, it was in my gut.
Amazing. So, can you tell the listeners, because many listeners are not aware what Aikido is about? What does it
Okay.
mean? So, can you tell us a little bit about what
Sure.
Aikido is?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Aikido basically means the art of harmony.
Mm,
I is unity. It's a letter, a character in Japanese. I should have brought my pictures. I have pictures that I use in my classes. But anyway, it means unity or a coming together, or we translate to harmony or peace. But basically, it's about integrating opposing forces. So
wow.
when I do this, it's like the character has this kind of feeling of upswirl and coming together up higher, like a transcendent force or place where opposites become one. It's like we
Yeah.
transcend this world of duality and there's a feeling of oneness. So we can't expect to find harmony in the world of duality, in the world of physical form, because you're over there, I'm over here. We're facing each other in opposite direction. We can never merge on a
Hmm.
physical level. But the idea is that with Aikido, Ki is the second character in the middle. They're lined up. There's three characters. And that middle Ki, we can unify in a Ki, or Ki is translated roughly to the life force,
Mm,
the energy that pervades everything in the universe. Every object has this subtle life force. Every animal, every creature, even rocks have a life force, the dirt, the ground. And then the Aikido means the path or the way or the study of how to unify this Ki, this energy flow into, where we can be at this level where we see that in energy, in this subtle life force, we're all one.
mm,
It's a dimension that we all have in us. We are that. But we get caught in the physical material world and forget. So it's about remembering who we truly are.
yeah.
When we get lost in the separation world, the world of duality, I got hooked on it. It was a practice every night. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's who I am. When I practiced Aikido and practiced blending, I would re-tap into that space of oneness and feel so great. And then I go out in the world and forget, but come back to class and remember. And so that's kind of how I got hooked on it. I felt very, very separate as a young person. I
Mm,
felt not only separate from people, but separate from myself. I felt my head was separate from my body. My heart was
wow.
separate from my head. I just felt so conflicted about everything back then. And so I was, like you said, everything's for a good reason. So I kind of confused and walking around the world feeling crazy and separate and typical teenage stuff, but also just bad things happened to me. I got bullied, things like that. And again, I can see that now, that was part of my evolution, that I needed to get bullied to be motivated to stick with it wasn't easy to practice every day, and to go through the transformations that you go through when you do a practice like Aikido. But anyway, so I started to feel more this place in me that was whole, that was integrated. And the thing, so that was beautiful. And we call it centering in Aikido. So it's one of the principles we work on a lot, is centering, to help us be able to blend with other people. But now, my emphasis a lot on is learn first to blend with yourself. Find where you're opposing yourself, where you're resisting yourself, where you're at odds with yourself, and introspect about it, and inquire into it. What is going on, and look at it. Don't try to push it away. We don't want to fight ourselves, resist. So that's another definition of Aikido, is the art of non-resistance. It's one of my favorites, actually. The art
I
of
love it. Yeah. It's amazing. I have a big smile on my face hearing you, because there's so much similarities, with everything. Like, I'm someone who's now practicing therapy, being a therapist. I'm working with clients almost every day. And this is something I've started incorporating. Whatever I've learned from your classes, from Aikido, whatever Aikido has taught me, whatever Hakomi, that sensory motor psychotherapy, has taught me. Both of them are energy related. Both of them are working with your body. So I use them both, the teaching of Aikido and Hakomi practice, with my clients, especially when they're not feeling connected, when they're feeling very separate from themselves. And I help them try to get back there, or to at least be aware that they're not connected to themselves. And this really helps me a lot. So thank you for bringing Aikido. This is amazing. So that's why I want to introduce Aikido, or share with the listeners that how amazingly beautiful Aikido is, and how it can help you in every aspect of your life. But today we'll be, of course, talking about how it helps us also in our feminine health. So a little bit more about you, Suan. So, sorry, Professor Suan. So, when you were practicing Aikido yourself, you started practicing it more into your life, and years passed, and then started teaching it. So in those times, especially the first decade when you were practicing plus teaching, did you at any point find that it was helping you during your feminine health or PMS or menstrual cycle, deal with that emotion or mood swings or anything that came up to deal with that?
Yeah, I very much, when I was 20, of course, I was having my periods, and I did feel very much like a yo-yo. Also, I talked about my inner conflict and being split and stuff, but the emotional yo-yo that I was on, and the lack of balance, and why Aikido felt so good was it made me feel this. I didn't really understand it at the time, but it's like you connect to a place that's already whole. But I thought I was somehow fixing myself or something. But after many, many years, I realized, no, that place is always there. And I can go right back to the broken place, to the place that's a yo-yo. But after a while, it becomes a choice. At that time, it wasn't a choice. I was just in the yo-yo land, right? Ups and downs. Yeah. And part of that is connected to the menstrual cycles, and part of it is just haven't worked on my stuff yet. Yeah. But when you have your certain time of the month, it might exacerbate, right, the issues that are still festering, that haven't been examined and healed. So, but every time I went to class, and often you won't feel like going to class. Oh, I feel terrible. I got my stomach, I'm having cramps, and I'm just going to lay in bed and feel terrible. And I learned, I had a friend that would say, come on, just go and just watch, or just do the warm-ups. This is what I do all the time with students. They tell me the same thing I said, you know, I can't, they can't train. And I say, just do the warm-ups. And always after breathing and stretching and opening, the cramps relax. And also in Aikido, when we talk about getting into our center, we're talking about getting into our womb, down into our deep belly,
Yes.
where the cramps are.
Yes.
And so instead of staying away from those cramps, our center or womb, we get into it and we breathe into that place, and it relaxes and it opens and the energy starts flowing. And it's like after 10 minutes of warm-ups, I feel great and I can do the whole class. So that was a revelation. And that's been very powerful through my whole life. I don't feel like going, I'm depressed, or my boyfriend broke up with me, I have to stay home and cry about it or whatever. No, go to class. It helps everything. And then that's when I started to realize, wait a minute, where'd that emotional sadness go? I feel happy now. But as soon as I let my attention go to thinking about the sadness, I'm back in the sadness.
Right.
So that became very, very fascinating to me, how it's not that we're actually fixing ourselves. There's a place in us that isn't broken. That's what a big thing Aikido taught me. And also meditating is a very important part of getting the Aikido, which really isn't just Aikido, it's universal knowledge, universal truth. Like Hakomi, Aikido, yoga, they're all the same, really. They're different names for, and they look maybe different on the surface, but if they're tapping into universal truths, then it's not located in just Aikido. Because I know lots of Aikido people who do Aikido who don't get the insights I get, because maybe they don't meditate, or they don't take Aikido Sensei, the founder, that seriously. The founder of Aikido was a great yogi or tantric. Yes. He really, he was deeply spiritual and spent a lot of his time in meditation and on retreats, not hitting, throwing people on the mat. So if people think that's Aikido, then they're missing the boat.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story. I could tell a lot of long stories because I've done it a long time. So I guess that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So in those times, oh yes, of course. Just a follow up on that. Were there any time when you were going through any of those phases? Because I've heard that many women have UTI commonly, urinary tract infection, anxiety that is also connected with your, also of course, anxiety lies in the hara and our belly region, and it's connected with also sometimes PMS, mood swings, and it just gets heightened up more during, especially those women who suffer from anxiety, it gets heightened up during PMS or periods. And anytime you felt that these elements that we speak about in Aikido, that goes with the ki and practicing Aikido, which is the earth, water, air, and earth, water, fire, sorry, the four elements. How
Your
can we,
one.
my favorite one, how can I miss that? How can we connect that into, how does that help connecting with it, with our feminine health or with your feminine health?
Okay, let me just say in general, before I get into the specific energies of the elements, I learned from my teacher, he was a great energy master, that something he used to say constantly was, it's just energy. It's just energy. So if I said, I feel really anxious, he'd say, that's just energy. Let the energy flow. I feel pissed off. Let the energy flow. I'm scared. Let the energy flow. Everything is energy. And we humans, it depends on where we experience that energy that we put a label on it. Like anxiety. Anxiety, if you observe it with detachment, you'll see anxiety is like kind of like an cold air that separates. It's kind of up here in the imagination. It's not warm, right? It's kind of cold, and it causes, oh God, that could hurt me, and oh God, that's scary, and oh my God, what if this happened? And you know, and you feel kind of in your body kind of stiff, you know, or tense, or separate even from yourself. So I call that head energy.
Yeah.
The energy comes into the head. We notice we start to feel a little disconnected from everything when we're anxious. So the farther we are away from the earth, the ground, which is earth energy, ground, we call it the principle of ground, the more anxious or fearful we'll be. The more we will sort of get into delusional thinking, say, or projection, right? We're not in the moment. We're not in the present. That's what ground does. It gets us back in the present. And as we ground that energy, I'm not trying to make the anxiety go away. It's energy. I don't want to make my energy go away. I want to transform my energy by shifting my attention. So we don't take that anxiety and turn it into stability or presence. We just notice where it is. You know, you have to locate it, start breathing. Breathing is key for rechanneling or bringing the attention into a different place. As that energy sinks down, comes back into the belly, it warms up. And then when we feel our feet, we start to feel we're connected to something real. Because anxiety makes us connect to those things that aren't real. Thoughts, anxiety, you know, scary thoughts, possibilities of, you know, something bad happening, catastrophic thinking. So just by breathing, being present in the body, coming to ground, you'll see things, the head will quiet down, the anxiety will quiet down. Now, people have a habit of having anxiety attacks, say. These things become habits over many, many years. It's hard to break habits, right? So to break a habit, say if your habit is anxiety, rather than go to the psychiatrist and getting anxiety drugs, I mean, some people need that, but often they don't. They could do it themselves, but they get addicted to anxiety drugs. Yeah. Or they get addicted to vodka or something. You know, every time they feel anxious, they have a drink. Yeah. And then that becomes a secondary habit on top of that anxiety habit. So how about learning to cultivate your own energy body? The energy is the healer by letting your attention come in and down, and learning for yourself that you yourself can be in charge of your state of being, your state of mind. And when you start to experience that over and over and do it, you know, so that we can break that habit. They say it takes 3 weeks to break a habit. That's not very long. You just have to do it for 3 weeks. Yeah. You keep doing that. Say for 3 weeks, I'm going to try this. I'm going to, every time I feel anxious, I'm going to do what Sue-Ann's saying. and then it'll become more automatic.
Amazing. That is very true. So what I'm hearing is that even during PMS or period time or any other time, women are going through mood swings, emotions, that connects them, that is connected also to our feminine health as women. What we can do is kind of connect with where that energy is, where that emotion is located in our body, that energy of the emotion, and kind of breathing it and bringing it down so we can ground ourselves, connecting with the ground energy, and it helps regulate it.
Let me bring in the opposite, because it's a little closer to my age group, which is menopause.
Yeah, I was about to suggest
like a rush of, it's fire energy. It's a rush of heat.
Yeah,
it's this, you know, we were just talking about the cold, the anxiety, the wanting to pull back and contract. Well, when you get on to menopause, it's like you get this flush of heat. It can make you go out at people, get angry. They say the bitchy woman who's in menopause is like a bitchy. And there is a certain kind of power there. Why would I want to get rid of that? It's like all my young woman adult life, I wanted to feel powerful because I didn't feel very powerful. Now I'm getting into menopause and the powers and the heat and the fire is coming in. Why do I want to get rid of that with drugs? So learning to also do the same thing with the heat, because it's rising just like anxiety goes up. It makes you want to go up and out, And so you just notice that, God, that was kind of harsh what I just said. Especially, you just get less patient. That fire comes up.
Fire,
So
yeah.
you work with it the same way. Grounding, coming back to center, breathing. Breath is like the key, because it's you can put your attention on it. It has directionality to it. And as you put your attention on it, the body starts to relax. Because when you're in a menopausal flush or an anxiety rush, there's a tension in the body, a lot of tension. Right. And the tendency is for your attention to go, to kind of close off and then go out and find somebody to blame. That could be if you're in a fire rush, blame.
Yeah.
With the anxiety, you usually want to pull away from people, but still about them. Right. And if you're angry, you usually want to blame them, which is still about them. It's not about you. It's not healing anything.
True. Yeah. And I've heard that in menopause, people, sometimes women, it's a lot, and especially if they're used to being impulsive or usually have very low patience, they are more prone to physically attacking or verbally attacking others. And I've heard stories about it as well. So it's a little scary for family members. Yeah.
It becomes a habit, you could say an identity. This is the way I've always been. This is the way I am. If you don't like it, what are you going to do about it? Challenging, defensive. That's all more the anger side of it.
Yeah.
But again, it's just a habit. It's not real. It's not who you really are. But it's what we're displaying. It's something that needs to be healed. And it doesn't make it better by fighting it. You can't fight it to make it go away. Healing is not fighting. That's why I like the word for Aikido, the art of non-resistance. The art of not fighting.
Not fighting. And I remember that during one of our classes, you spoke about, when an attacker comes with an energy, sometimes you can even sidestep. So noticing that, kind of bringing that to attention in this moment, as you're speaking about detachment. And that seems like some form of sidestepping, kind of from what you're experiencing, seeing it from others' point of view, sidestepping and just looking at it from another perspective. Is that something that you would say would come for people who are experiencing menopause, kind of, even though they're in that energy, allowing themselves to be aware of what they're going through? It's difficult to do in that time when that energy is coming up. But when they have had the chance to contemplate on it, is it possible for them to kind of sidestep and look at it again?
Okay, so we call that sidestepping, getting off the line, right? So we're not trying to get away from the energy or the attacker when we sidestep. What we're trying to do is reposition ourselves so that we can blend. We actually want to blend with that energy. There's no escape. Because when we try to escape, and it's very subtle, the levels of escapism we all have. We don't want to feel pain. We deeply want to escape from our own experience. We want to stay asleep on some level. But the thing is, as you mature as a soul, I would say, you realize that escape does not solve anything. It only makes it worse. It seems like temporarily, that bad person is not in my life anymore. But then the next person you fall in love with will be exactly like that bad person.
Yeah, or even worse.
Or so in terms of our own self, say anxiety, if you really feel it, it's painful. anger is painful. It's like a burning inside.
Yeah.
So what I try to do is get down into my belly level. This is what we do as you're talking about getting off the line or sidestepping. So when you work with yourself, you're getting off the line by more like getting underneath. Okay. So it's sort of like as I drop down into myself and sort of clear out of my emotional reactions and my story pictures, which are in my head, my emotional reactions are my heart here. They go deeper into myself in your gut. That place you can actually feel detached, but not separate, more like you can observe your heart, your feelings, and your thoughts, kind of like an observer just in the background. Yeah.
So for the listeners, for their benefit, when you say that drop into yourself, do you mean, how do they do that? Do they kind of drop in by just breathing in and doing some grounding breathing?
It's like meditating. It's
Okay.
like a little bit like a Zen type of Buddhist meditation, because in Buddhism, they don't fixate or focus on an object. They breathe. They focus on the breathing as a focal point to unify the consciousness. And as you focus on the breathing, like in Vipassana, people have probably done Vipassana. You start with the breathing, 3 days of breathing, and then if you're on a 10-day meditation retreat, and then that focuses on sensations, bodily sensations. That's what I call the belly. You can't feel sensations unless you're in your belly center, because that's the part of us that's aware of our bodies, that's aware of our sensations are coming from the body. And they're not, there's not a kind of personal identification with sensations. Like we say, my feelings, my thoughts. And then we identify with them. And we think that we're those thoughts, and we're those desires, and we're those angst, and we're those pains, and we're those emotions. But when you get down to the sensation level, it's like nature. It's like the wind blowing, the rain coming down, the sun shining. They're just physical sensations. But it's a big deal, because at that level of physical sensations, that you're at the energy level. You're at the subtle, energetic level. Sensations, once you're there in the sensations, then you can feel that you're not this thing you are identified with, this person, this separate person. That's where blending happens. So we do it with ourselves first, then we can do it with another person. So when we get off the line, we do that sidestep. What we're really doing is connecting to the attacker. We're not trying to get away from them or trick them, or we're just wanting to be with them in that deep energetic connection. And when that really happens well, that attacker can't attack you anymore. They don't want to. They forget to. They don't remember why they're angry at you or why they were attacking you. You see these films of the founder of Sensei when he was 86, a little old man. And the guys would come and try to attack him, and they just fall down. It just go like that, and they just kind of fall down. And it looks really phony. It looks fake. But it's something happens to your will when, so it's like that with ourselves. When we really deeply touch this energetic space of our true nature, we don't feel those negative feelings so much anymore. It's okay that your body is having menstrual cramps. Like I was saying earlier, then you come back onto the level where it's real painful and you're identified and you hate pain, you want to get away from it and escape. And then you notice, there I am again, trying to resist myself and trying to, I want to reach for something unhealthy to make me feel better, like food, stuff myself with comfort food. Then you feel worse, more bloated, and you have other problems.
And there's so many,
these are kind of long-winded answers. I'm not very good at short kernels of easy
No,
answers.
you're being amazing. I mean, I'm pretty sure that within those answers, those long answers, there are plenty of listeners, other questions, smaller questions that might be answered within those long answers. So thank you. I mean, you also said that, we're stuffing our face when we're resisting the pain, the comfort food. And there are so many listeners, so many women out there who are actually saying the same thing, that they end up eating a lot comfort food, and then they feel guilty about it later, that we've eaten so much and it was not healthy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah. So now,
yes, yeah.
sorry. Yes,
So no,
go on.
that's right. No, no, I'm good. Don't need to elaborate anymore.
Now, any elaboration from you is a wisdom. So thank you. Anytime, if you feel the need to share something, we're happy to listen. Um, I do have one more quick something to ask. I know you have another meeting to get to, so we'll keep it short. So in case of those women, so I know that my mom currently is going through a massive case of UTI, and she has been in pain since last night, and today morning got worse to the point that she couldn't take it anymore and she was crying.
Is it an
And
infection in the uterus?
yes,
What's,
it's a bacterial infection.
oh my goodness. Okay.
And I've never seen her experience this kind of infection before. So this is like a lot of antibiotics and fever sensations and a lot of rest, which of course I feel like there's a purpose there. The universe is giving her body is giving her the space to relax and rejuvenate, because she was not doing that at all. Like, it took her body to do this for her to take rest and sleep and give herself time, because she was being busy all this time. So she didn't listen to her body all those days, and now she has to. That's one way to look at it. However, what she's going through right now is something many women go through. Some women experience UTI on a mild level, some experience on a massive level with a lot of pain and burning sensation even when we're going to the bathroom. So on those levels, I mean, of course, how can we apply Aikido here, Aikido elements, Aikido principles, to help them?
So your mother is taking antibiotics for the bacteria, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
She needs to, that sounds like something you really need to
Of course.
work on
No,
a
she's,
medical, yeah, good, medical
yeah,
level. But just
but
how does she,
energetically, yes.
yeah. Okay, um, so her pain, is it localized like in her belly, in her womb area, her
In a
uterus?
womb and the uterus, yeah. And also like, where the root chakra is, kind of
Okay,
around those,
so
yeah.
what your mom, what is probably be really good for her is getting some really gentle massage, like Reiki, energy
Mhm,
massage.
mhm,
Or if she doesn't want to do that, have other people touch her, she could
mhm,
put her hands, palms down on her, right on her where her uterus is, her ovaries, her uterus.
mhm,
Just bringing her hands, lying down on her bed with her knees, with your knees bent. You want to
mhm.
have your back nice and relaxed and flat, so her knees slightly bent, or a bolster. You can see my. Oh no, you can't. These kind of bolster thingies you can put under your knees.
Oh yeah.
You could lay down, put this under her legs, or just prop some pillows up,
Yes, we could do that.
and so she can really let go and relax. A little bit like yin yoga would be really good.
Mm,
Get her some, because yin yoga is just, everything's very yin, very uh, passive and non-resistant. But it's all about breathing and coming deep into her feminine self.
right.
And probably, I would say your mother probably is out of touch with that feminine, deep feminine.
She's out
And
of touch with herself, actually. She's been working herself way too much. And every time I would say, please take some rest, take care of yourself. Because being a mental health therapist, I know how important it is to do self-care. So I keep reminding her, and she would just always have some other work to distract herself from
would
taking
you
care of
be
herself.
comfortable putting your hands just there on her
Yeah.
and just coaching her or coaxing her? Now breathe where underneath my hands. Feel
Mm,
where my hands are. Now let your breath just allow it. Or you could put one hand on her sacrum or her lower
Mm-hmm.
back, and the other
Mm-hmm.
on like that, so that you're
Mm-hmm.
able to send energy through, you know how we feel energy sometimes, we
Yeah.
play with feeling energy between. You could practice kind of feeling the energy between your hands,
Mm.
you know how we kind of play with the ball, the Tai Chi
Yeah.
ball, and you feel the energy in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you get that kind of warm connection of energy, and then bring one under your mom's back and one on top, and just hold
Mm-hmm.
her and breathe and keep feeling the energy, the space. Just keep paying attention to that space between your two hands, and then just gently telling your mother or saying to your mother, "Can you feel where my hands are?" You let
Not
your
even
breath.
touching it, just kind of laying it hover there
No,
with the
no. First,
energy.
I would say first you put your hands like one under, she's lying on the floor, lying on the bed. Let's say the bed, it'd be easier for
Mm-hmm.
you. You want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure you're not uncomfortable. Your shoulders are relaxed. You
Sure.
slip one hand right where her lower back or sacrum, right, right behind the hara. We're actually
Mm-hmm.
working with her hara.
Mm-hmm.
Right below her belly button is the top hand, and
Mm-hmm.
right, directly, that would probably
Below.
be around the upper sacrum, that where the lower back and the hips
Yes.
joint, right in
Mm-hmm.
there. And that would be really good for your mom. And then you're also training her to feel herself. And if she gets some good result, like, oh, I feel better, or oh, the pain kind of went away. It's not as bad.
Mm-hmm.
And say, how much better is it? How much percent better is it? So she gets a mental connection,
Mm-hmm.
50%, 60%, 30%, how much better is it?
Right.
So she remembers, because
Yeah.
it's easy to forget, get back into the old self, and nothing works and this is useless and hopeless.
Yeah.
I would say, or you could hire a person who's a healer, something like Reiki, something gentle. And
Mm-hmm.
she's probably not at the stage to do yin yoga herself.
No.
But if you know any yin yoga, some simple, it's generally you're kind of laying over bolsters, or, you're just getting in a position where you can, the muscles can stretch on their own.
Okay.
Maybe that would be later. But I think this exercise she could handle. You could do that. And then if you just follow your intuition, after a while, you'll feel like, I feel like putting my hands here, or I feel like putting my hands here. I feel like putting one on her heart and one on her belly. Or
Yeah.
just kind of follow the energy.
Yes.
You could
I
say
love
that's like,
that about Aikido. Yeah, I love it about Aikido where we can just listen to that energy and follow it, where it's taking, trusting it. That's
it's a
something I
good
really,
practice for you. Your mom's
yeah.
like a good uke. Uke means the
She
attacker,
always
right?
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's always
So
is.
so every time you feel her tense up or what, I said, it's okay. Just easy, mom, easy,
Yeah.
gentle, no negatives, no negatives. Don't ever want to
Yeah.
say negative things like, don't tense. That.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we as women are so energetically and spiritually connected to each other. Like we also say that friends are friends who've stayed friends for long, they actually can, especially women friends, they can have their period cycles in sync sometimes. Um,
Yeah.
and so that shows that we actually are energetically connected. So anytime my mom's especially energy goes off, she has anxiety, I start to experience that anxiety on me too. And that's how energetically connected we are. Something is off with her hara, and now my hara is also starting to get affected, so slowly. So I'm feeling it in my hara at the moment as well,
Yeah.
slowly.
So
So
you help your mom and it's going to help you
yeah.
big time.
Yeah. So this is something that is amazing input. I mean, of course, took this last couple of minutes to share my personal experience, my personal story of my mom and what she's going through with her UTI. But I'm hoping that the reason why I'm sharing my personal here is because in hopes that it also helps some of the other listeners out there. You can also work with your hara or that belly energy, especially during UTI, sensing the pain, and even without UTI, right? Suan, like when they're not, anytime they're experiencing pain around in their body, they can just kind of sense that energy and where it needs to go?
Yes. So touching is really, really helpful. Putting your hand, if you don't have a other person, then you're doing it to yourself. Or tapping. Remember we did some,
Yeah,
I think we did toning and tapping.
a
This
little
is a
bit.
really good one, the thymus gland, which is a good one to tap. Thymus gland is kind of like the immune system and just overall generally stimulating that to help healing. Tapping the belly gently. She could do that, make, kind of making circles around tapping.
Oh, now I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this would be like maybe another session, techniques and things that can help. I use toning, tapping, movement, stretching, a breath, of course. That's number one.
Yeah.
It's all to get the attention. Remember, attention is the healer, our own inner consciousness, getting our attention to the place that needs the energy, needs the attention, needs the life force. Life force will follow our attention. They have a saying, energy follows attention. Have you heard that?
Yes.
I think I
Energy
use it a
goes
lot.
where
A lot of
attention
people are
goes.
using it now. I don't know if
Yeah.
Aikido made it up or we stole it from somebody, but I've been hearing that for 50 years. Energy follows attention.
Yes.
People in the Enneagram use it a lot.
Yeah.
So if energy follows attention, we get a hold of our energy, we can completely transform ourselves.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know that, we're almost at time, and I'm so grateful to have you here, Professor Suan. This has,
great.
yeah, it has been so informative, such amazing wisdom here. And I'm pretty sure our audience members, our listeners would totally benefit from this wisdom. And I have a feeling that we'll be hearing soon with more questions and more information that they will need from you. And in that case, we will like to have you back on another podcast episode. So yeah,
You
thank
know
you so
what?
much.
I'm having I'm having a website built for me, and I could put this up on my website when it gets done. It's more
Okay.
for Vedic astrology, but hey, why not put Aikido stuff up there too?
That would be awesome.
I can have an aspect of my website be about Aikido and one about Vedic astrology. There can be about other stuff I'm doing.
Amazing. So, yes, one more thing that I want to mention to the audience members, that Suan also, whenever we would be in class, she would actually talk to me sometimes about spirituality and wisdom and, Hinduism, a little bit of that. We would talk about a lot of things that I really connected with the professor, and she kind of became like my mentor in that aspect. So I really connected with her, and she's here again to pass on her wisdom. I'm so happy to have her here. So thank you everyone for being so
Totally
supportive.
my pleasure.
Thank you,
for
Suan.
inviting me.
Thank
Sneha.
you.
Domo arigato gozaimashita.
Domo arigato gozaimashita. Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening into FemChatz. Until next time, namaste. Bye.